Welcome to day 3 of the Leslie and Lester top sew along. Today it's all about the collars. Whether we're doing a shawl collar or a hood, we're going to get that all assembled in that zipper. We're going to work it all out. Okay, here we are. Day 3 is upon us. We're going to be working on the hood and the shawl collars. Let's start with the hood. The first thing you need is either your fold over elastic or your binding piece. I have my binding piece here. There's a chart as far as what you need for the length of it. Here's an example of some FOE or fold over elastic. See if I can get it out of the package for you so that you can see what it looks like. Here it is right here. It is exactly what it says it is. It's elastic that easily folds in half. All right. I just don't have enough of it. So I will be doing binding on my hood. All right, we're starting with the hood pieces. I've got hood side B, hood side A, and our hood center. So we've got these 3 pieces and we are ready to go. Now what it says is to place, I'm going to put hood side B to the side because we're working with hood side A first, all right? So we don't want to get these confused. This is hood side A. Okay, so we're going to take our hood center piece and our hood side A piece and we're going to place them right sides together with the top of our hood center here and the neckline of our hood center here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by clipping or pinning the bottom, the neckline, and the top, and then I'm going to gradually clip them all together. So here we are, we're clipped all the way around. We're going to head over to our sewing machine using a stretch stitch, a zigzag, or a serger, and we are going to stitch all the way around this. I'm going to use my serger, so I'll be right back. Now we're going to take our other side B, okay, and we're going to place it right sides together. So here's our side B. Okay, we're going to place it right sides together. So I'm going to turn it over and we're going to do exactly what we just did, attaching these. And then I'm going to head to my serger and stitch that together as well. Here we are. If I turn it right side out, this is what our hood looks like. Just like this. It's a nice looking hood. It's a 3-piece hood. You've got the strip down the center. You could color block this. It's totally up to you. All right, so here we are. You're going to want, if you're using a fabric that can be pressed, you're going to press your seams to the inside. Okay, so you're going to, we've got our seams here. We're going to press them if you can press this. I'm not going to press it because it's fleece and it could melt. You would press them if you have a fabric that you can press them towards the center. Okay, this way. And then we're going to go to our sewing machine and we're going to top stitch that down. All right, let's do that now. Okay, so here we are. Trim any threads that you may have. And you could see as I was sewing that I was making sure that these seams were pushed towards the center. Okay, so you can see they're all pushed towards. So if you have something that's not pressable, or even if you're pressing it, you want to make sure that your seam is pointing toward where it's supposed to point. Okay, so just take your time when you're top stitching. All right, so there we have our top stitch. Now we are moving on to page 27. We are on step 3, and this is where it tells you to cut. If you haven't already, cut your FOE or your binding pieces. I have already done that, all right? So now it's time to put our binding piece, or our FOE, our fold over elastic, on the hood opening. So the binding just needs to be matched 1-to-1 and placed firmly instead of stretched. So you're gonna have to pay close attention to not stretching it. And just so you know, if you are tempted to stretch your binding or your FOE, what that's gonna do is that's gonna cause your hood to be gathered. So it's gonna bring it in and it's gonna have some sort of gathering, and that is not what you want at all. All right, so if you need more in-depth instructions than what I'm going to do here, there's also written instructions for double fold binding and fold over elastic on pages 48 and 49 of the tutorial. That's linked in there if you're on your computer. It makes it really easy to find. All right, so I'm going to start by finding the center point of our binding. Okay, then I'm going to try to find the quarter points. So I'm going to fold this into the center. So here we are. We've got all this. I want to find the center point of my hood. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this side, the end of our hood piece, to the center to find the quarter points. And same with the other side. This just makes it easy to match up as we're going along. We're going to place our binding right sides together with our hood. And I'm finding they're matching it perfectly, and there's literally no stretching. They match up 1-to-1. Now I'm going to head to my sewing machine. Using a 3/8 inch seam allowance with a stretch stitch or even with a serger, I'm going to stitch all the way around my hood. We're back. We have attached it. I did decide to use my serger. Let's look at what we've got here. All right, this is what it looks like on the right side. This is what it looks like on the wrong side. I've turned on my iron because I am going to use my iron for this part. So be careful if you're using fleece or something that can melt. You're just going to use it on kind of a low setting, whatever is appropriate for the fabric you're using. We're just going to be careful, all right? Now, my binding is not fleece, so it should be fine. I'm going to link in the description box below our sewing school video for how to achieve binding. That way, if you have any questions, you can refer to that, and I'm just going to make my binding. I use wash away wonder tape because it just makes it go faster for me when it comes to binding. But you do not have to do that. You can press it and it's fine. Yes, I'm using wash away wonder tape again. If you don't have wash away wonder tape, or you don't want to use wash away wonder tape, you can just pin or clip this in place. It works just fine to do that. One of the things you're noticing is that since I couldn't press this down really well, I'm pushing that seam allowance down because you're wanting to cover that. So you're wanting to just cover that stitch line. Okay, this will give you a good picture of what it's going to look like finished once we stitch it. So this is the inside, the wrong side. All right, this is what the right side will look like. Isn't that pretty? I just love it. It looks beautiful. All right, so now we're going to head to our sewing machine, just like the binding video tells you, and we are going to stitch 1/8 of an inch from the binding edge. all the way around. We're going to top stitch it. You're going to want to use a stretch stitch, a twin needle, or a cover stitch for the binding. All right, so you're going to sew it from the front, the top side. So this is the outside, so the right side. You're going to sew it from the right side, and you're going to top stitch it all the way around. Okay, here we are. We have it all attached. It looks super pretty. Now we're going to move on to the zipper installation for the hood. So I've got my zipper here, and it says open the zipper and fold the tabs. Open the zipper and fold the tabs away from you at an angle and tape in place wrong side together. So this is the right side, so where the zipper is the right side. So I'm actually going to flip it over a little bit. All right, right, there we go. So this is the top of the zipper. I'm going to take a tiny piece of washaway wonder tape, and I'm going to place it at the top here. All right, now hopefully it'll stay. I'm going to fold it kind of at an angle away from me like this. Okay, hope you can see that. I'll try to zoom in a little bit. And we'll do that to the other side as well. This just gets these pieces out of the way because we don't need them. So from the front side, from the top side, where the zipper pull is, it looks like this. Now, let's keep it unzipped. We're going to use washaway wonder tape because that's what she says to do. We're going to place washaway wonder tape down the left side of the front of the zipper tape. Remember, the front, which is the right side of the zipper tape, has the pull on it. So we're going to go right at the edge of the zipper tape, all the way down this left side. As you're looking at your hood, okay, right side out, you have a short end and you have a tall end. We're working on the tall end, okay? That's the end we're working on. So let's move the short end out of the way. And we're working on the right side, not the left side, because that's the neckline. All right, it's the back of the neckline. This is where the zipper goes. Okay, so now we're going to place our zipper right side down, so zipper stop down on the right side of the tall, which is hood side B. All right, so I'm going to take my wonder tape off here, and my zipper is a little long. It's all I had, so we're just going to go with it. So you want this zipper stop here, this top zipper stop, to go right below your binding. Okay, so make sure you're lining up the raw edges and you're putting that zipper stop right below the binding, just like this. All right, and we'll be able to trim off the excess. So this is what it should look like. Whoopsies. There we go. Okay, next, if you haven't cut your zipper binding, it's 1 inch by 5.5 inches. This is the time to do it. I have mine right here. I'm going to place the zipper binding right side down on the edge of the zipper tape with 3/8 of an inch hanging over at the top. Use more washaway wonder tape if I want, or I can pin or clip. It's up to you. Okay. Now we're going to head over to our sewing machine and we're going to sew this using a serger or a stretch stitch and a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So not the normal 3/8 inch, but the 1/4 inch. And we're going to continue serging over the binding. So you're going to start at the bottom and you're going to go all the way over the binding through the top here. All right, let's do that. This is what we've got. We can even zip it up. Make sure we're all good to go there. Here's what it might look like at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to push this way. So this is what we've got on our on our placket here. I'll get there. So You can press this down if you like. In fact, I may do that. Now let's turn this over. Okay, now that we have it wrong side out, wrong side up, we're going to place some wash away wonder tape on the edge of our zipper binding piece. Okay, we're also going to put a little bit of wash away wonder tape across the top. And we're going to start by folding that down. We're going to fold the binding around the zipper tape and tape in place on the back pocket. So we're just going to cover up. Now it says fold the zipper, so seam allowance is on the wrong side. So here's the seam allowance right here. Now you can use more zipper or more wash away wonder tape if you like. I'm not going to do that. So we're going to top stitch along the binding to just secure our zipper in place. We're going to make sure that the right side is smooth while we're sewing. So we're going to reach under it and you just make sure everything's looking the way it's supposed to. We don't want it to get all funky. We need it to be able to clear the zipper itself, the zipper teeth, so it can zip and unzip, okay? And that should look perfect. All right. Now we're going to use a long straight stitch for this, not a big deal. And so I'm going to stitch down this side and I'll be right back. Now it's time to set this aside. We're done with this for now. We're going to move on to the shawl collar. So set that to the side for tomorrow. Okay, so we have shawl collar pieces, side B and side A. You cut one in your main and you cut one in your lining. Okay, so it says match the vertical edge of shawl collar A piece with the vertical edge of shawl collar B. All right, and now we are going to stitch across this edge. Note that Jessica, the designer of this pattern, does not recommend using a serger for the shawl because it will just make the seam allowance extra bulky, so you don't want to do that. But you do want to use a stretch stitch. You're going to do that with this piece and you're going to do that with your lining piece. All right, now I'm just using the same fabric just because that's what I want to use. So with your main and your lining, and we're going to sew across these edges using a stretch stitch. All right, now we've got these done, we're going to open them up and you have one of two options. You can either press this open depending on, what kind of fabric you have. If you have fabric that is pressable, you can press that open, or you can use wash away wonder tape. If you're using something like fleece, this is a nice sweatshirt knit, so I think I'm good to go to press it. So we're going to press, we're going to open up the seam allowance and press it. All right, now that we've done that, we're going to place our shawl collar pieces right sides together and we're going to sew around the outside curve, but not the vertical edge. I'll show you what I mean here. That's the edge that we're not going to sew. All right, now that we've got these right sides together, add as many pins or clips as you need to. We're not going to sew on this vertical edge right here. We're going to sew all the way around it though, okay? Starting here or stopping here, but do not sew here. All right, also, again, we're not going to use our serger here. We're going to use our regular sewing machine using a stretch stitch. Yeah, and I'll be right back. Okay, here we are. We are stitched together on the outside. We're going to notch out the curve by cutting out small V's, making sure that we don't go through the stitch line. So there's our notches. Now we're going to turn our shawl collar right side out. Okay, we're gonna want to make sure that our iron is on. If you can press this fabric, then you're gonna want to turn the iron on and press it. We're going to bring our shawl collar this way, and we are going to pin or clip around the inside of the curve and the straight edges. Now we're going to head to our sewing machine, and we're going to base this open raw edge, all right, all the way around with a long straight stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, here we are. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our zipper, we're going to turn it to the wrong side, and we're going to place small pieces of wash away wonder tape. Oops. Take the paper off. Then what we want to do is on each of these, we want to fold it at an angle away from the zipper tape. So like this. So it kind of comes off the edge a little bit. Same with the other side. So here's what we've got. If we turn it over, it looks, let me zip it up so it doesn't, there you go, so you can see it a little better. It looks like that. All right, we're gonna put wash away wonder tape down the left side of our zipper. Now, mind you, the zipper tape is facing up. That means that the zipper pull is facing up. Okay, that's the front, that's the top side, or the right side of your zipper. In the tutorial, I think she calls this the front of the zipper. All right, so we've got that. All right, so now we're going to take our zipper and we're going to put it along this edge. We've already put the wash away wonder tape on it. We're going to turn it right side down or front side down, and it says place your zipper face down on the right edge of the placket, which is right here. The zipper stop, which is the silver thing up at the top, should be placed right below where the seam at the top curve ends. So right here. Now, you're going to need your binding. I'm pushing this down really hard because I don't want it to come off. Okay, now if you haven't cut your zipper binding, which I have not, I have to get to that, you can cut it out of a scrap of cotton lycra or something equally lightweight like that. You don't want to use your sweatshirt fleece, but it needs to be 1 inch by 5.5 inches. Okay, so we've got our binding cut out. Now, we're going to place the zipper binding right side down on the edge of the zipper tape with a 3/8 inch overhang at the top. So we did this with the hood, so it's going to be about like that, okay? What I'm going to do, actually, I was going to clip it. I think I'm going to use some more wash away wonder tape for the sake of my own sanity. Now I'm going to sew with a straight stitch and a 1/4 inch seam allowance over the binding, and I'm going to continue to sew all the way through the top, so all the way to the end of the binding. I hope that makes sense. I'll be right back. Okay, if you need to, you can cut off anything that's sticking out, like your zipper tape piece that's sticking out. You can cut that all off. Now we're going to pull our binding away from the zipper. So the right side is showing. So the right side is showing. Okay, you can see it here. Okay, now we want to fold, just kind of finger pressing this down. So this is the right side of our binding piece. Okay, so we want to pull this all the way around to the wrong, this is the wrong side here. I realize this is hard to see. It's hard to maneuver here just so that you can see it all. So we want to fold the top of our zipper binding, which is right here, over the top of the seam allowance, which would be straight down like this, okay? So you can put a little piece of tape there. So just a little piece of wash away wonder tape there, and just fold it straight down. You could trim out any peeking edge of the top zipper tape or whatever. Place wash away wonder tape along the wrong side of the free edge of the zipper binding, which is right here. All right, so let's do that. Fold the binding around the zipper tape and tape in place on back of the zipper. So you're going to pull it around the zipper tape. You're covering up your stitch lines, and this is what it's going to look like. Now it says fold the zipper so the seam allowance is on the wrong side of the placket. So here's the seam allowance, so you're going to fold it this way. And so from the front, it's going to look like this. All right? That's what you want. You don't want it to look like this from the front, because the zipper is still facing down, which is not what we want. So we have to turn it this way so that the zipper then is facing up and we can zip our thing closed here, okay? Now this is pretty thick, so we're going to take this to our sewing machine. You're just going to be really careful and making sure that your the top here of your collar does not like get scrunched over, and so you're stitching it down and then you can't zip and unzip. All right, so looking at it again, I'm going to turn this way so the seam allowance is at the wrong side. This is the wrong side, okay? And it looks like this. Now we're going to top stitch along the binding to secure the zipper in place. So we're going to make sure as we're going to go very slowly. We're going to make sure as we're going down here and we're top stitching this in place that we are making sure that the right side is pulled properly, isn't wrinkled or anything weird is going on. You're just going to take your time. That's the big thing. All you got to do is take your time, right? Okay, and this is a lot of fabric. It's bulky in here, so be very careful. You can push your seams down to kind of, so they have a little bit less bulk. All right, so now we're going to top stitch along this edge of the outside edge of our zipper binding. We can use a long straight stitch. That's not a big deal. You can go ahead and use a long, you don't have to use a stretch stitch or anything. All right, so here we go. All right, here we are. It's looking good. I'm gonna get all my threads off here. Okay, so here we've got our zipper all ready to go. We can worry about this this overhang later. That's no problem. We're now ready to move on. We've got our shawl collar with our zipper, and we've got our hood with our zipper. Okay, now what we can do is we can move on to day 4.